Are you stuck in the same old routine at work? Do you find yourself hitting a creative wall, unable to see beyond your current perspective? It's time to break free and unlock the power of fresh perspectives.
David Gouthro here with another episode of Discover Fresh Perspectives. And today I have as a guest Merike Kolga. Welcome, Merike.
Thank you, David. Nice to be here.
So, Merike, when we were just chatting beforehand, you said that it might be interesting to explore the notion of a farmer's market as a metaphor for people that are thinking of professional development or growth of any sort, but maybe mostly in the context of professional development. So maybe you could just tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that and how you came to the farmer's market as what might be a very useful metaphor.
Absolutely. So, farmers markets to me are a place of discovery. They're somewhere where the vendors have taken time to prepare their products and they're marketing these. They're marketing their vegetables, their produce, they're marketing skincare products, sometimes candles, wherever. Depends on what type of market you're going for. I am a huge fan of markets because I find them fun and like a social platform. So I generally go around to different booths and I tend to socialize with the vendors who are there. So really get to know them and their product. However, my last one was on the Sunshine Coast. I was at one of their winter markets and I noticed that just like when you're looking around for that right solution or those right options of what could work for you as a book, as a podcast, as a resource for professional development, it's kind of like a farmer's market out there. So
Hmm.
figuring out, like, there's so many things. Everything looks great. And if you're sensory, everything looks great, smells great, tastes great. There's so much to pick from. You just end up leaving the market with everything. And so that got me thinking.
So, and I have heard that sometimes we're paralyzed by choices. We figure that if people have more choices, to feel better about that, and in some cases, it can be paralyzing or immobilizing. So, how does one choose either? In the metaphor of the market or as a professional development opportunity, what's the process that you go through to figure out? So, not just what could I be doing, but what should I be doing to grow and develop?
The concept of what should I be doing and what could I be doing? I have a thing for framing things in the positive. So it's not like a should, as in like, oh, I have to do this. It's what do I get to do? So I get to go to a market to figure out what might be fun to include in my professional development. Now, going haphazardly at any market could be a lot of fun and can be if that's your motivation, if that's your reason for going. However, if you're going to do that as a professional development tool or resource, you might, like you said, get bombarded by choice. There's overwhelm. There's so much choice. So going in there, I would suggest identifying what is it you want to start doing differently. So from that professional perspective, maybe it's a work approach that someone wants to do. Soft skills are always in the conversation, using AI better, whatever it is.
Okay. Mhm.
And you pick something and start with that. And that becomes that starting point of, okay, here's what I'm going to go into the market looking for something that's going to help me with this goal or this objective.
Okay, so I start with what my objective is or what my intention is, and what next?
I would suggest then have a look at what this is going to need a little bit of self reflection or a little moment. So, for the people that just like the idea of going in there and getting something really quickly and leaving, that can happen. If the person knows exactly what works for them, they're going to end up picking the best product and leave without a hitch. For some of us, like myself, who like to take their time and go through these products and really think about what's going to help me, I also try to remember what's not worked for me in the past.
Hmm.
And what is it that I'm going to know or feel? And it does take some feeling and some reflection. So you got to be really honest with yourself when you're going to pick that right ingredient or option or product that, okay, what is it about this method that's going to work? What is it about this concept that's resonating with me that's going to help me achieve a goal? So, for instance, let's say my goal, something super simple, was to be more present in social spaces. Let's say I'm a person who's on my phone a lot and I just want to be more present in social spaces. So, I'm going to go now to this market, this platform of resources and tools and whatever, with the idea of I want to get better in social spaces. So I know I could actually go around and use the market as an opportunity to chat with everybody, but I want something I can take away. And so I'm going to assess. I'm going to assess what is available and what's the most likely going to matter to me when I leave with it. Or maybe it's a collection of a few tools or approaches. So for something like this, let's say I come across a booth that's featuring buffer zones. Their entire concept is build in a safe pause for yourself. That, let's say, a social space. Let's say I go into a farmer's market, just to overdo the concept. I go into a farmer's market. Instead of staying on my phone and taking pictures, which is a great thing of everything, I'm going to put that phone aside just for the time that I'm in that space or entering that space. That's my buffer zone. After let's say the concept is to interact with at least 3 things in the environment before I go back on my phone. I'm like, I think I can do that. I feel comfortable with this approach. I know that just telling myself to put my phone away is not going to work. But having a buffer zone, it's got some parameters. I can work with this concept. I'm feeling that I'm kind of energized to do this. So even though I know I should do something differently, I'm feeling I can. And I'm actually kind of excited because you know what? After the buffer zone's done, I can take out my phone. Again, I can get right back on there. But what I'm doing is giving myself space to try something different, not go full tilt and say the whole time I need to be off my phone. That would be ridiculous for me. And, just explore. So I'd say buffer zone. So I pick this one tool. So I've assessed and now I'm picking something. But I've also done a moment of reflection of if I just write myself a note or if I just tell myself I'm going to do this, it's not going to work.
So, uh, and this may be going down hitting off on a tangent, but let's say I want to taste a few things. I want to try a few things. So when it comes to making a final decision, how do I know if something's going to be around when I want it again, when I want to come back to it? So, is a particular someone in the market still going to be there the next time I go to that market? Or you referred to AI previously, so I'm interested in learning some new things in AI, which changes so quickly. So, how do I help determine the the longevity of whatever I choose to explore? Because I mean, things come and go very, very quickly. So, any thoughts on what my decision making process might be like around that?
Buyer beware could be a good starting point of being willing to take a chance on something you really like and maybe considering it as a starting point. That way, you're going to have access to this approach the first time around. You're going to probably really enjoy using this approach. And maybe if it is to get better with AI, maybe it's one prompt that really stands out to you. Maybe it's one way of applying it to your current day to day that's going to improve how you're using it. And that's your one takeaway. So as part of that assessment, assessing what you're going to take away from it, whether or not the product or tool or resource is still going to be available later. Because things get retired, things get replaced, ingredients, sometimes they go out of stock. Sometimes the inventor gets really creative and says, I don't need to use this anymore. I'm going to use this. But for those of us who have bought that product previously or used it, we love what's in the old product and it's not going to be there the next time. So that is, unfortunately, something we're going to have to figure out how to deal with. But I would start with just knowing that we may need to modify our approach later on and not to hold on so tightly to the first product, but take advantage of it. Use it for what it's good for. Remember what you like about it and maybe try to carry that into the next iteration of, because if we're not doing something differently and if we're not evolving, we get stuck in this like default method or default way of thinking. That's not going to be helpful.
So this sounds so far like a personal exploration. If I was going to be looking for something, be clear in my intent, go out, test
Mhm.
things out, this, that, and the other thing. Is there a role for getting input or advice either from a mentor or a coach or someone else? And again, going back to the farmer's market, someone says, you really ought to try this. It's really good. Like, is there a role for external input into that exploration process? And if so, what might that look like?
There's always room for input. In fact, I think that is something that could be a very beneficial piece for anybody, especially anyone who's never worked with a mentor, a coach, gotten feedback, or had great leaders along the way in their professional development, or if they're at the beginning of their career and they're not really sure anyway. Um, Absolutely. You really would want to know that you're going to get even more out of what you've assessed and decided to pick or select to use if you add in that feedback piece, add in an accountability partner or someone just to walk with you on that journey, someone to learn from their experiences. And this is also that vendor at the market. Not necessarily that they're going to be that coach or mentor, but you can find out more about that product you're getting and see where there could be added value for you. So you like what you hear about this approach, but how are you going to make it really work? How are you going to know you're successful? If you're goals driven, maybe naturally that's just going to happen. If you're just starting out with this, thinking about how you're going about this approach can also make a difference. Knowing that you're going to have, some people will call it people in your power circle, some people will call it just having a coach, a mentor, somebody who is, I would think, like a third party professional interest. So they gain that idea of, here's, you share your goal. I want to do better with AI, or I want to be more social in social spaces. You let them know that, hey, I've assessed this. What experiences have you had with it? You get their perspective or their experience, and then you leverage that. So
So,
just like knowing that that product isn't going to be the same the next time, potentially, it's adding to it, making it your own.
maybe we could take this from the theoretical to the metaphorical to give an example of it. So can you think of a time when you've actually used this approach and how that's worked for you? Just tell us a little story about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I think the last time I used this approach was actually it was to figure out how to use AI effectively.
Oh, okay.
So very timely potentially. But what I was looking to do was write a couple articles on LinkedIn and to keep them in that professional development realm, so developing my own skills. And I thought, okay, I'm not very good at writing copy. I can
Mhm.
come up with ideas, I can synthesize, I can do all sorts of interesting things with my own ideas and bunches of other people's ideas. Absolutely love putting them together. But writing about it in a concise way, having a very strong academic background, I like to write long and I like to write with lots and lots and lots of words and details and references and people reading, I would say, a lot of posts on LinkedIn. That is not the platform for that.
Mhm.
There are other brilliant platforms for longer articles. So I thought, okay, what do I want to do? I'm going to identify exactly that one little thing I want to do in this big project of wanting to write better. It was, what do I need to do to get started in writing?
Mm.
I figured, well, okay, I mean, I know how to write, but what is it? So I asked, I put in a search and just started with a Google search, but then ended up taking
Mhm.
it over to an AI search engine to elaborate for me and put together a couple ideas.
Mm.
And so I thought, okay, so I started with that. And then I looked at these ideas and I started assessing them because some of them were, okay, watch a couple YouTube videos. There was a couple courses on like Udemy or Coursera. And I thought, okay. And then LinkedIn always has something, but unless you've got the premium account or in North America, I think unless you've got your public library card, those are inaccessible unless you're going to pay for them and so on and so forth. And then I thought, you know what? There's a course that stood out. I like the concept, the length of the course. I like long courses in general. However, this is not something I wanted to spend a lot of time on. So I'm assessing what's important. What's important for me to get out of it? I want something quick. I want something intelligent. So that to me means somebody who's maybe got some experience in that field. I want to learn from someone else who's doing this, preferably someone who's still doing it. And then they're bringing their best practices to me. And I'm going to use this as a starting point.
Mm.
So that assessment piece came in there. And then the third piece for me is I'm going to call it like a refresh. It's
Mm.
okay, I have taken many courses in the past. I've taken long courses to get degrees and certifications and whatevers. And then I've also done short courses where it's just an hour or two, where you do a couple chapters of a course and then you let it go because it's not for you. This was going to be a great course for me. And I
Mm.
thought, what has not worked in the past? Just to make sure I'm choosing the right one for myself. And I noticed that I'm not very good if the content is passive when I'm not asked to engage with it. So I thought, okay, this one had videos and it gives you exercises to do while you're working through it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a go. And then I was thinking, what mindset do I also need to have? I mean, I'm excited about this. I, by nature, seem to have a growth mindset. However, what is it that I am going to be able to do differently after this? Why should I be bothering spending a couple hours on this course? And I thought, I am going to be able to do something differently. I am contributing to my original goal, and this is feeling really good. And there's so many options out there that I'm just going to start with one, and I'm excited about it. So I did, and it's actually given me a great way to just get ideas out to start with.
So two questions around that, what you did, and one is, did you use any outside sources like people resources, and if and knowing what you know now, and you were going to go through a similar process, what advice, if any, would you give to yourself for any changes you might make in terms of your approach?
And forgetting the first question you just asked,
Let's go to the second one. I think it's a better question.
okay. Let's see. I would suggest really be, and this is not rocket science. This is pretty basic, but identify what you want to start doing differently. Work from the end to the beginning.
Okay.
Think of what is it that you want to start doing differently, and then what's it going to be? Whatever. In your professional development, you can do this in your personal development too. But what's one thing you want to start doing differently? Figure that out. Then it's about figuring out what you want to do, how you're going to go about figuring out what's going to work.
Yeah, and excuse me. And I would say that takes a fair bit of discipline because I know, especially with AI, it's so easy to be seduced by the tools and look at all the things it does, and I want to get that. But I think your advice about find out what you want to do differently puts a filter on that, so you don't get drawn into the shiny whatever it is just because of the tool, but to really be outcome focused. I think that sounds like really sound advice.
It worked for me. It's not going to work for everyone. However, the closer we get to defining or being really specific about what it is that we want to do, it's that how we're going to do it. That's where the confusion comes in because, like we said at the beginning, there's so much choice. And the way AI or anything like a farmer's market will position it is that this is the best product for you. This is the best process. This is the best approach. But knowing yourself, knowing what has worked for you, and when you get really, really honest about it, and also have that motivation, that intrinsic drive or that intrinsic motivation that's helping you, it's what is going to fuel or feed that in what you pick. So as long as there's a resonating factor there between what you pick to help you through how you do it, as long as it's not the exact same way you've done it before and not achieved success, you may stand a better chance of getting closer to actually achieving what you want to do.
And I would guess that there's another part of this about, close enough or good enough, because to try to find just the perfect fit could take an awful long time, and things would change. And so it's like, what's good enough to get me what I want to do, and not to get consumed with continually exploring, to trying to find something that's actually perfect, that's quite elusive and may never in fact exist.
Absolutely. I'd even take it a little bit further back and lean into that what's going to get me started going in the right direction. Because
Mhm.
from what I'm finding, even when I was looking for that right course to do, it wasn't until I felt that I really wanted to make this difference in what I'm doing. So it's got to connect, whatever that perspective is that I have going with, hey, I'm going to choose this approach. Okay, but how is it really, really going to help? And even if it's just a tiny little shift, it doesn't have to be that world winning, um, I've achieved everything, my entire goal is complete. It's like, yeah, that's super amazing. And you're hopefully going to find another goal to work towards. But what can get you started going in the right direction for yourself?
Yeah, getting over that inertia is so important. And you spoke previously about having an accountability partner, someone like that. That's kind of like asking that question: do you really want to do this? And what's holding you back? What's the first next step that you have to take to get going and try to get the wheel up and rolling?
Mhm.
And then you can do the
Yeah.
fine tuning later.
The wheel up and rolling is great. I have a friend of mine who calls it when you get stuck on that wheel, it's like a hamster wheel.
Yep.
And then you could even use your own name. So for mine, it's a Merike wheel or Merike hamster wheel. So when this happens, it can happen in that moment too. And it's about being able to step off of that and just let that wheel crash. We're going to get a new wheel if you want a wheel. And if you don't want a wheel, go pick something else. And it's just being able to let go of what you've done in the same way for so long with the willingness to know that you can get another wheel if you want to, or maybe you'll end up on another wheel, but it's going to be better because you've picked different things to put into it or add onto it or take with you on this journey of whatever it is. And when we set goals and objectives, the idea is, yes, to hopefully achieve them, but you're not going to get there unless we're actually doing something helpful positively along the way to get there. And when it means something to you, when it really truly hits home with, oh, yeah, this is making me feel better, do things differently, think differently, or approach things, there's generally a carryover effect too. So it's not just so honed into this end goal. It is to motivate and drive, but where that motivation and drive come from, that's still very much from within. So if that, how I'm going to do this connects with that piece, that wheel, yeah, you know what? We can get off that wheel and we can do tricks with it.
So let's say that there's some listeners out there that have a feeling that they're stuck and they need to do something differently, but they don't know what it is. If you had, 2 or 3 words of advice for someone to think about after the podcast ends and they're going, okay, now what? So they're stuck. What would you suggest? 2 or 3 steps for them to take?
And the first thing I would suggest asking oneself and being allowing yourself first, allow yourself to be completely honest with yourself, which is not easy for a lot of people. Sometimes we just don't know how to do that. But it's asking yourself why. What's going to be so different? Why is this so interesting to me? Why is this a goal? Like what's really at the core or root of what I want to start doing differently? Is it because I'm going to um like for the improving AI skills?
Mhm.
Is it like why? What is so important about that to you? What makes that the thing to start with? And if you're stuck, could ask, if you weren't stuck, what would you be doing differently?
Okay. Yeah.
And then I'd say just have a look and see if you are a person who actually likes to use tools, resources. What do you like? Like when I do development recommendations in general, I always ask, how do you like to learn?
Mm.
Because I'm not going to try and say, here's the greatest course for you if you don't like courses, or here, go read a book. If you're not a reader, take an audiobook, watch a YouTube video, look for a book summary. I'll craft those resources or tailor them based on what it is that someone's looking to do or wanting to do differently. But you have to have almost a conversation to figure out if what you first think about is really what you want to change or start doing differently. And then lean into, okay, how do I actually like to learn? And then as you go through this market of choices or options, which of those could actually be the most helpful? And then think about how you're going to think about that and take it forward.
So that's a good solid process. And so what I'd like to do to close off is come back to the metaphor of the farmer's market. So, what are some things that, without someone even intentionally be looking for something, what might someone think about the next time they go to a farmer's market? What might they be mindful of that might be a trigger for them? A positive trigger.
Of course, I generally only work in positive. So there's going to be lots of options. Everything is going to look shiny and brilliant. And if it does, maybe consider a different market. But things are going to be exciting and shiny and for you. There is potentially something for you in that. So take your time. Allow yourself to take that time. If you've got that goal you're going into the market for, great. That can be super helpful. If you're just browsing just to see, just to get some ideas, just to even check and see if there's anything out in this particular market that's going to be of interest to you, go for it. Your goal doesn't have to be lofty. It could be super simple because remember, we're just getting started with something. So allow yourself the space within which to get started and explore.
And it could be a yummy experience. Merike, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. And you used, I think, a very interesting metaphor of the farmer's market as a way for someone that wants to develop a process to actually do that. So it's been great having you here, and thank you so very much.
Well, thank you very much, David. It's been a pleasure.
David Gouthro, discover fresh perspectives. The only thing I can guarantee is if you come back next week, it'll be a different guest with a different perspective on something. Thank you so much, and I look forward to have you listening then.
Subscribe now, because on Fresh Perspectives, every episode is an opportunity to explore new horizons and redefine what's achievable.